Hello and welcome to this tutorial screencast of that's to accompany the Gulp Workflow gist at GitHub that I've created, which is a sort of tutorial about how to use Gulp. So I'll assume that you've installed npm successfully, the Node Package Manager, and here is my Gulp Workflow project directory, which has got in it the gulp file.js and the package.json. So if I let's just cat start. There we are, that's my package.json there with the dev dependencies that I've got, and that's my gulp file.js. So what I'm going to do is just go into my source directory, and I'm going to make a directory of test, cd into that test, and I'm going to first of all just show you how to use create a package.json. And so if I go to npm init and I type in npm init node package manager init, it will create a package.json. And so what it'll do is it'll create the instructions on what the project, or the details of the project. So the name is taken from the directory name, so it's test, and I just generally enter through all of these. You can add them in. There are some interesting fields in there. You can create oh, there we are, the Git repository. You can do that sort of thing. So is this okay? Yes. Okay, so there we are, and then that's in there now, and I can basically cat that, and there it is. So if you compare this is the package.json when you've finished installing npm's the npm init, and you've initialized this particular project directory. And if you go back up to this one, this is the package.json that's in the Gulp Workflow project directory, which is from the gist at the GitHub, which I've created myself. And you can see that the difference is it's installed all these dev dependencies. So if I wanted to install a dev dependency now, I could type in npm install, and let's try browser sync. Oops, browser sync. And there's npm has actually got a bunch of different commands here, so I can search for different. I can. If you look at the different commands here, you can call up the man for these as well. But you can. There's search. I think there's a search one as well. So I'll assume you've installed gulp cli, which is the command line interface to gulp. So what I'll do is I'll just install npm install browser sync, and I'll put it into the dev dependencies. Oops, save dev. I mean, like that. So then I won't need the sudo command. And whilst that's installing, that takes a few seconds to install. So while it's installing, we can see that it's going to add to the package.json that dev dependency. Now, it takes a little while to install, but what it's doing is it's creating a new folder in the project directory called node modules, which you'll see in a second. And inside the node modules directory, it's going to create a subdirectory called browser sync. Inside that browser sync directory is another node modules directory, which is all of the dependencies, and this is the list of all of the dependencies, and that's what node package manager is. It's each of these are nodes, and they descend from this primary node, this head node, which is browser sync. And so if I type ls now, then I've got node modules in there, which is difficult to see actually. There we are, node modules. So if I show you node modules, there it is. It's got a directory called browser sync in there. So and then there's there's the node modules that are the dependencies for browser sync to work. So if I put in cat package.json, there's my dev dependency, and it's installed it automatically, so I don't have to type anything myself. Now, if you look at that package.json, you can then see if I basically go into the Gulp workflow Gulp Workflow. There we are. Change the directory into it, and then I do that. Then it's all already got all these dev dependencies. So I've just copied this Gulp Workflow. I've just copied this package.json and the Gulp file.js from the GitHub. In fact, I've got them on my computer already because I made them. So, and then so it's a great way of passing around workflow or a particular type of workflow. So I can just type in npm update, and that will install all of those dev dependencies. So when you saw how long it took to install browser sync, it's going to take a few seconds. So whilst that's working, I'm going to press Control Shift and N, go into a new directory, and you can see it's created that node modules folder there. I choose my colors really carefully, as you can see in my terminals, but I can generally just about read it. So if I then go to I've got in order to create the directory structure of my Gulp Workflow project, in fact of my projects, I've got this alias set up, which is that make dir command, and it also creates some files. So I'll show you that. That's just cat. See, that's there, and so there it is. There's the make dir command, and it's me creating a whole bunch of files that are necessary. There's the build index.html is to provide, it's an empty file. All these are empty files, but it provides me with the Python surfer with a file, and the style.css in the temp here is also to provide for the Gulp plugin so that it can have a file when it runs. And these are SAS files up here, these 3 SAS files, and then I have what I use a global SAS file with global variables and global styling and that sort of thing, and I then have a imports for the different sections of the different page at the moment anyway. So then I've got obviously the source index.html. So right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that command. Just that's still installing, so I'm going to run that command. So if I show you, there's my directory listing at the moment, and I just run that command, and then I list it again. There's all of these new directories. So if I ls source, there we go. It's got let's do that source. So it's got all of those directories, that directory skeleton with those files created. So I can now go to Sublime Text, and I can open up Sublime Text, and this is open at the Gulp Workflow directory, and it's got all of these folders already. So let's just check. That's now finished installing, so it's installed all of those dependencies and different projects. And if I type in, I'm going to create a Git folder. So I'm going to initialize a Git. There we are. So that's initialized a Git. So then I can rewind if I make any mistakes. I'll probably shouldn't here. So if I start, there's my index.html, it's empty. There's my index.html and my source, that's empty. So there's my gulp file, my package.json, my SAS. I'm not using any JavaScripts in this. This is where I put my images and other assets in there. And there's no CSS in the build file and that sort of thing. And so, right. So I'm going to start Gulp now. I'm in the project. I'm in that project. So I'm going to type in Gulp build, and it's going to run the Gulp build task. And so this is going to start a Python server, which is going to open up this. And obviously it's an empty file at the moment, so it's not showing anything. But I can go here, and I've been experimenting with Emmet, and Emmet has got some really groovy shortcodes that you can type in, and I've been adding my personalized snippets to it. So I'm going to do this. That gives me the HTML5 boilerplate with, and I've added to reference the style sheet and the location. And this, which is some emit, which I can then edit, and then I enter, and it gives me all this stuff automatically. And emit is really easy to type. You don't have to make the snippets, but it's just to do. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to my SAS, and I'm going to type in global variables and global styling. Oops, styling, and so I'm going to import these. Import the header. These are the different SAS files, so I can split these different sections of the page, which is here. These different sections into different files, so I can reference them more easily. And obviously there'll be different directories for different pages, etc., different areas of the website. And then I'll put these in. And then global styling, I want to take bullet points from the lists. So I'm going to put in UL and list style type none. Global variables, I'm going to create some colors. So I'm going to color scheme. And this is a really useful thing, which is the color scheme. Adobe Cooler I use. There are a number of these different color theming websites, and there are community created color schemes that are based upon color theory, and color theory uses a color wheel to come up with different complementary and different shades of these different let's just go back, and then I'm going to take these different colors and I'm going to put them in here. So I'm going to put that's dark blue, right, okay, so those are global variables. I can reference those global variables anywhere that I want to in my project, so that in any of these SAS files, I can create these SAS files. So I haven't saved any files yet, so nothing has changed. I should have changed here, right? So it hasn't. But I'm going to go to header, and so the first thing I'm going to do. This is another great time-saving thing, which is to take these sections and then copy the HTML and go to HTML to SAS. I'll use a GitHub one. Where's that there? And I can just wait for that to load, and then I can paste that, and it gives me all of that. And then I've copied that, so I can then go into my header, paste it, and that's that. And then I can go back into the index, and I can get that section there, and then copy that, and select all, paste, there it is. I can copy all of that, put into my middle, and then that only leaves the footer, which is that one here, which is only like that. So the great thing about SAS, of course, is that it is CSS, so it's quite easy to learn. But once you get the hang of it, you can see that it's a lot easier to find everything, because you know because it's structured like HTML. You know that there's your header, and you know that inside there are your main nav and all the rest of it. So the other great thing about it is that you can write something like this. I mean, this won't actually work, but the short code for referencing the parent element, which is header, inside that header, I can basically reference it with that, and I can group my media queries into here, etc., etc. So then I can have my header media queries actually within the body of the header rule, so that I can actually find the media queries a lot more easily, and they're structured so that you can find them more easily in the CSS and then in the SCAS file. So, okay, so that's created all of the structure, and it's really, really quick, and I can then basically edit and add some stuff. So I'm just going to put some simple stuff in here. So hi. See what that looks like. And so as I'm editing this, it should have changed all of this, and it hasn't done anything. Right, so I'm just going to refresh it and remind it that I exist. No, didn't work. So Control C, build again, and hopefully that will. That hasn't done anything at all. Serving files from build. Why is it not doing anything? There's my style. Okay, I haven't saved any of the files, that's why. Save all. Right, so then it's going to warn me, invalid CSS after light blue. There we go. So I've got error codes coming up, so I can see where I am. And then after light blue, which is in the sas.sys. Oh, there we go. Missed off one of those. Save that. Okay, let's begin. Word import header. So what have I done there? Media query. Again, I'm missing those off the apostrophe-itis. Save that, and then I can see, and then you see there's the style.css that it's created. There's the minify, that's the map basically, which you provide to the browser so that it can better or more easily see your code, navigate around in it in the developer thing. I think it is. Sure. Look it up at some point. But here's the minified. Is the minified CSS, which is I'll probably refer to in my finished index.html. So I've got it here. That to min CSS and save. Before I stamp my little foot and get really annoyed to find out what's going on. Okay, well it's there. Right, so okay. So this is now connected to browser sync and working, and it's a little bit flaky. Sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes it does, but it's pretty much, it's probably my Gulp file more than anything else, because I'm fairly new to Gulp, but as soon as I saw it I went, wow, gosh, because I can now understand how, you know, I've always had a nightmare with CSS. I've always had problems trying to locate things around, but with Flexbox and SAS and, you know, editing in real time, I can do all sorts of things. So I know that, for instance, that logo, I'm going to give it a margin on the left-hand side of 10px, and then on the nav buttons, I'm going to the main nav. I'm going to give it a margin right of 10px. I'm going to save that, and it gives me this this thing here. So I've also got buttons unaligned. So I can just go to here, nav buttons, display flex, space between. Let's change that to center. That's not what I want. So let's go back there because that's so it's going to be display. So I can put it here. Justify content center. Let's try that. No, done it. So maybe flex center. Go back to there and do that. Flex end. No, that's it. Justify content center. So space between. Oh, there we are. Space around. So that gives me my buttons lined up, and there we are. So normally I'd have this browser, and it would be updating automatically in front of me, and I would have it, you know, this machine would be connected to my through the local subnet to my laptop, which would, you know, exclusively contain my editor, and so I'd be able to edit and keep my editor in front of me, and around me the different screens I've got connected via the subnet would update every time I save one of my files. This means that I can have this monitor here and a different monitor with a different browser, and also smaller devices such as handhelds or iPads or that sort of thing, and they will update in real time and auto refresh as I'm editing, so I can have an entire farm of different display devices around me. So when I'm designing my responsive site, I can have it, you know, I can have instant feedback about how my design and my theming is working. So there we are. That's the end of my Gulp Workflow explanation, and there's a little bit of Emmet in there and some other stuff as well, SCAS and SAS rather, and that sort of thing. So hopefully you'll find that useful, and it will help you speed up. Okay. Thanks for watching.
It's a wonderful age on a beautiful stage demonstrated for you. It's been created for you. It's just a part of the thrilling start of